Hello and welcome to the Source One podcast. Consider us your source for the latest procurement, supply management, and strategic sourcing insights, anytime, anywhere.
Reference checks are a great way to cut through the spin that we often see in a supplier's RFP response or pitch presentation. Yet reference checks often either play a small role in the sourcing initiative or are ignored entirely. Why? Because reference checks take time and, done incorrectly, simply don't add value. Inefficient reference checking practices don't pay off, and references end up getting relegated to the just another formality section of an RFP questionnaire. But they don't have to be. Here are a few tips to hone your reference checking strategy to help you produce actionable results. To be clear, this isn't a rundown of all the questions you should be asking a supplier reference. That would depend heavily on your sourcing initiative's goals, the type of suppliers you're looking for, and the role they'll play in your organization. What this list provides is a set of ground rules for making the most out of the process. First, don't include vendors in the calls. This seems obvious, as their participation will kill any possibility of a candid conversation. However, some suppliers will try to work their way into the calls. Don't let them. Guide the conversation. Begin the conversation with a brief overview of why you're interested in the supplier and what matters to you most. The reference may have had other key considerations, and left with open-ended questions will naturally focus on what matters most to them. If your biggest concern is training, adherence to timelines, or an ability to proactively seek out cutting-edge solutions, say so. Ask for actionable responses. Asking a reference to describe their relationship with a supplier won't yield valuable information. Asking for examples of how a supplier has impacted their business gives more insight. What problem did the reference check seek out the supplier to address? How long did it take for them to do so, and did the solution fall within the timelines agreed to? How often does the reference need to escalate issues, and how quickly are they resolved? In broad terms, was there a strong ROI in the project? Give them a gut check. Some questions beg for canned responses, such as asking about strengths and weaknesses. Better alternatives ask for the reference to think about their own experience more fully. In hindsight, what does the reference wish they knew prior to signing with a supplier? What advice would the reference give to help you avoid headaches? What does the reference wish the supplier provided that they aren't currently? Network. Even after your call is completed, stay in touch with any references that were particularly open and helpful. If you end up selecting the supplier in question, they can be an invaluable asset in the future, as they've already traveled the road you're about to start on. While these suggestions will help you get the most out of a reference call, we also want to make sure the calls are worth having in the first place. Not every reference provided needs to be checked. Suppliers provide references that they think will make the best case for them, regardless of how valuable they'll be to you. Your goal, then, is to identify which references are worth your time. So, what makes a good reference? Which ones should you avoid? Keep work history in mind. Sometimes we want to speak with our would-be supplier's newer clientele. Speaking with new clients helps focus the conversation on implementation issues. However, there isn't enough longevity to gauge a supplier as a long-term partner. New suppliers are still putting their best foot forward, and clients may be willing to forgive mistakes as part of the learning process. Seek out past clients as well. A longer-term client will not only understand the entire life cycle of a relationship, but is more likely to be candid about it as well. Speak with the right contact. Low-level stakeholders who work with suppliers on day-to-day issues are often more valuable to you than high-level managerial leaders who might have inked the deal. Make sure you're talking to titles that are in the trenches to get a true sense of how suppliers function as partners. Be sure to have those same titles on the phone on your side as well. Identify relationships in play. If you're looking for the supplier to play a mission-critical role, are they mission-critical to the reference company? How did the reference identify the supplier as a potential partner? Through an RFP process, or was there a personal relationship in play? All add a great deal of context and may make the reference more or less valuable in terms of applicability to your organization. Uncover conflicts of interest. While some clients offer to be references because they feel strongly about a supplier, others may have a tit-for-tat arrangement, including free or cheaper services or other value adds. If a reference is getting a better deal on products or services you're inquiring about, then their experience will be different from yours. They also may feel beholden to the supplier to give a better reference than they otherwise would. As a final note, I want to leave off on how we should interpret these results. Of organizations that do conduct these calls, too many treat them as compartmentalized pass-fail tests. Don't forget to apply what you've learned. If any specific weaknesses are brought to the surface, make sure they're addressed later when negotiating service level agreements. If references indicate implementation milestones were missed or that employee training wasn't proactive, build appropriate carrots and sticks into the terms of your agreement. So, reference checks. Are they worth the time? There may not be a clear-cut answer to this question at the outset. However, following these rules will help you determine if you should invest the time in reference checks, or if you're better off focusing on other methods of evaluating potential partners.
You've been listening to the Source One podcast. For more strategic sourcing and procurement insights every day, visit our blog, The Strategic Sorcerer. Want to provide feedback or suggest a topic for a future episode? Let us know at prrequest@sourceoneinc.com. Thanks for listening.